Hello everyone, this is Tyler Dalrymple again, coming to you live on this Saturday in April. To be my third video. I'm getting a lot of good response, a lot of good feedback from the community out there. My first video almost has 100 views, which is nice. Greatly respectful for that. Grateful for that. And I look forward to keeping these videos coming to you. I feel like the truth needs to be out there, and it needs to be known, and needs to be understood correctly. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of people that are running around with false information on purpose, which is not doing humanity any good. So it's up to people like myself and other people like me to get this information out. So today I kind of want to talk about, I know I've brushed up on Phil Schneider on my last video. If anyone has any questions or anything about that, I'm very, very familiar with his work. I spent hours, days, if not, days watching the very few videos that still exist with him. And I need to watch that new Phil Schneider documentary that they made. I heard that they made a new documentary about him, which is fantastic, because without his work, I mean, we wouldn't know half of the things that we do about the dumbs if it wouldn't be for him. So that's fantastic, and I can't wait to watch that. I just have to get the link to it. I'm not sure who made it or what it is, but yeah. So what I want to talk about now is, today at least, I think I mentioned it a little bit in my last video, but I didn't get too in-depth with him, I don't think. Bill Cooper. And I want to talk about William Tomkins today as well, because I watched his video with Carrie Cassidy that they did a few years ago, and it is just, wow. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. But I'm going to go over Bill Cooper for a little bit. Sorry about that. His father was a pilot. They lived around in military bases all throughout his life. His father was always in the military, from what he could remember. And then after, when he grew up, he went into the Strategies and Air Command for 4 years. He worked as a missile tech. Bill Cooper did. He was a pneumatic engineer for B-52s and other bombers like that. He left the Air Force to go to the Navy later on. He was assigned to submarine duty. The USS Tyru. That's the ship he was stationed on. And one day, the crew on the deck, as well as himself, had a UFO experience. They seen a few UFOs come out of the water and into the clouds, and it just like came up, and it just went right out of the ocean and just went right up into the clouds. And they were astounded. They were like, wow. And this was I think this was their first experience for any of them. And as it shot out, and then it came back in. And he said as it was coming in, right before it hit the water, it would disperse the water around it, so it didn't hit with as great as impact as it would have if it would have just hit the water head on. So what kind of technology does that? Advanced alien technology is what does that. Eventually, he was given special security clearance, given after this event, and what he explained to his superiors. He was given a special security clearance and trained as an international security specialist in the Pacific Arena Intelligence, in the Pacific area of intelligence briefings. He was assigned to Bernard Clary, and updated him on various operations, plans for future operations, and he prepared briefings for all these generals and all these people that were looking at this higher information that they captured. He had a Q-level clearance that had no blocks or anything on them, so he had access to all and any information that he could get, that he could find. And he had access to all the information that the admiral had access to. So they gave him free reign on almost everything, information-wise. Yes. And so later he was talking about when he's seen certain JFK documents saying that he wanted to do away with the Federal Reserve, which we found out later was true, and he wanted to disband the CIA and all those other associations like it, those other three-letter associations like that, in order to plan the UFO disclosure. And they could not let that happen. So what they did was they assassinated him in Dealey Plaza. And with doing a little bit more research, I also found that the driver of the limo, which I always knew it was the driver that shot him or did the final shot, that man was actually a man called William Greer. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that man was Dr. Stephen Greer's father that shot JFK in the head with a air pistol that Bill Cooper said had shellfish toxin in it. That's what the bullet was, shellfish toxin. It wasn't a normal bullet. It wasn't like a 9 or a 40. It wasn't anything like that. It was poison. But yes, William Greer was the driver of JFK's limo. Turned around, shot him. You can see it in the film. Plain as day. So that for me was a huge, just wow, because it just goes to show that this is all connected. Like I said, this is all intertwined. This is all these pieces fit and come together in this enormous puzzle. But yeah, that was a little bit about Bill Cooper, or at least some of the notes that I had. His book, Behold the Pale Horse, is great. And he says in there, he goes, these elite people, they were really, really concerned and really, really determined to live out the book of Revelations. And which, if you think about that, it's really something. It's really it just goes to show that the power and the determination that these people have to keep us all nice and nice and just paying bills and going to work, and don't worry about that. Don't worry about that craft coming down from the sky. That we have hundreds of videos of, or don't worry about that. Those thousands of confirmed and real UFO videos that we just see plain as day. Not really in the U.S., but outside of the U.S., they're all over the place. And I think that's another thing too. I think the U.S. is just the one place on the planet they can't just appear like they do in Brazil or appear like they do in South America. I think the U.S. is like the last place where they're like absolutely none in the airspace, or as few as possible in the airspace. I think, once we see them the people in Brazil and South America see them, I think then that's when, we're really close. I mean, we're really close already, but like when we start seeing them, like they start seeing them, then we will be very close because they see them all the time. I mean, I go on Facebook and I follow these South American UFO groups, and I see new videos daily, almost daily. It's really it's amazing to see how many are out there compared to like the airspace of like the United States. Like we do not see them like they do. Like it's crazy. Even China, even Russia. I mean, I even think they're more in their airspace than ours. I mean, well, they could be in ours just as much, but they're cloaked, so we don't see them. But yeah, so so I want to talk about the William Tomkins. William Tomkins, man, wow, his interview with Carrie Cassidy, that was done a few years ago. Because they were talking about Trump and they were talking about Obama. So yes, it was a few years ago. It is. It was mind blowing to say the least. Excuse me. The. I mean, he basically goes on to say, that he was pulled out of high school, halfway through high school. He pulled out, brought into the Navy, and told to report to a certain admiral or general in San Diego. He goes on to say that, he was chosen by Nordics, and a lot of these higher military men were at the time. He goes on to talk about the Battle of Los Angeles, which, if you know anything or any of the huge stories in ufology, the Battle of LA is one of the first sightings ever. I mean, this is pre-Roswell. This is the early 40s, and yeah, I mean, he says one night his brother and his father, his mother was back east, but his father and his brother seen the event. His dad tells him to come outside on this deck, on the porch of his of this 2-story building, or this 2-story house that they had in San Diego. And hundreds, if not thousands, of people saw it. I mean, there were the anti-aircraft guns, just lighting this thing up, just shooting it, and it would. He said, I can't imagine seeing this. Wow, but like he said, they were just firing on this thing for hours, and it was not moving, and it was hitting the invisible electromagnetic shield that was around the craft. So they were just hitting this electromagnetic shield, and the shells were just hitting it and just bursting, not even doing any damage to the craft at all. And while that one was sitting there, he says there were just hundreds of other ones, smaller ones, in the air. And he said at some points the AA lights would shine and follow them. And I can't imagine. Uh, so him, and potentially hundreds of others seen hundreds, if not thousands, of craft that night, and the and what's amazing was is like he said people stayed out in the streets all night watching it. Some people, it was crazy, and he said no one was the only people that were hurt or killed from that event were people by our were hurt by our own shrapnel. Not a single casualty was due to these other beings. It was all of our equipment that caused any casualties at all, which was another interesting point to say the least. But he said nobody got sick, nobody, developed cancer, nothing like that. And the government was going, I mean, there was no cover up, there was nothing like that. And it's an amazing event, to say the least. Some of the other things he talks about are he talks about how he explained the relative size of our universe, just to give you a perspective of what it is. He holds out his arm like this, and he says, imagine there's 3 other arms like this. You got this arm, and this arm. And we're on this arm right here. And we're about right here. And this is Earth. And he says we're not downtown where all the action is. He says we're out here. We are at the point, very soon, at least a few millions of years or tens of thousands of years, whatever. Our planet is in the process of being thrown off into the galaxy from the system in which we're rotating around. So we are at almost the end of the spiral, if that makes sense. So once we get to the end of the spiral, our planet is thrown off and it keeps moving. And he says, so for this part, that is where we're at. And at this end is where, the higher populated areas of the galaxy are. We're kind of out in the country. And so, and he goes on to say that a lot of other races or species of beings know that this planet is a laboratory. We are their laboratory. He says that a lot. So which makes sense. I mean, because if we're so far out there and, they might just think, well, it's Earth. I mean, no one's going to know about these guys. They're not down here. They're way out here. Who's going to know about them? So, that made me think about that a little bit. But, he said also our moon, which is very interesting. One of the most interesting things about in the whole video that he said our moon is actually a control center, a control module for this whole section of the Milky Way galaxy. Our moon is a huge, huge command satellite for this leg of the galaxy, which is amazing. It's just confounding. I mean, we don't really realize the scale of what we're inside. We do not understand the scale. We do not understand the magnitude. We do not understand how significant this is, how important it is to realize this information and realize our place in the universe, our real place in the universe, not just here on Earth. No, 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 no. That's small potatoes. Not yet. Even this solar system, that's small potatoes. It's more than that. It's light years more than that, and it needs to be talked about. It needs to be understood. And it needs to be brought to light. That is why I'm here. But yeah, I mean, he also goes on to say, he talks about the moon landing, and and he talks about Operation High Jump. I'll get to both of those. But he talks about that with the moon landing. He talks about, about what they really saw when they were up there and what really happened. And basically, they got there, and they got out, and they saw these craft hovering above this crater, hovering above it, not on it, but above it. And hundreds, if not thousands, of these 8 or 9 foot tall reptilian beings are standing there watching them. And they get over on the medical channel and start saying, sir, you got to look at these things. You got to see these things. They're massive. He says, and even goes on to say that they're threatening us. And I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I cannot imagine the utter terror that those men must have felt, And given how there's no sound out there or anything, like that is just something that would even make it more creepy. Like, you see them, they see you, but if they were to like come towards you, you wouldn't hear them. You wouldn't, like, nothing like that, which is crazy, scary as fuck, like scary. And so, hearing that just even reiterates more about what they were like when they came back from the Apollo 11 press conference after. See their attitudes? Yeah, they're not all, hey, we were just on the moon, no, they were still in shock. They were still in shock. Yeah, I don't care what they say. They had to have been. They did not know what the fuck to think about their life, about the universe. They did not know what the hell to believe at that point. And they were just like, yep, we were there. Yep. And it just goes to show how how misinformed we are by this whole thing, how misguided we are, how just ill-informed and just thought of as stupid, or thought of as, they can't handle this information. They're not smart enough to grasp this information. They're not interested in this information. They wouldn't be. Of course, anyone with a brain is interested or cares about this information and wants it to be understood and wants it to be known and knows the severity and importance of it. I mean, our government has killed hundreds, if not thousands, of people for releasing this information or trying to release this information. I mean, fake suicides and, lock them away forever, or, frame them for murder, or, go to their house and strangle them with a catheter, or, it's, as in Phil Schneider's case, or in Bill Cooper's case, they just went to his fucking house and the cops shot him. Like, and I think if I remember right, if I read it correctly, there were undercover cops or there was some kind of person on Bill Cooper's property, and he's like, leave, and the guy wouldn't leave, and or the people wouldn't leave, so they called the cops, or the cops got called, and he was like, I'm not something happened between him and the police then just ended up shooting him. Well, I think that I think he was murdered, not because of you know, of being hostile to police officers or hostile to someone. No, they killed him because of the information he was getting out, and they killed him because they have had they he just went too far. You know, he had a really good run, Bill Cooper. I mean, he lasted he lasted a long time telling this information. You know, longer than a lot of other people have. But it just goes to show. It just goes to show that, you know, all of these people can't be wrong. All of these people got to have something in common. All of these people got to have some truth in common. You know, it's not for nothing that all these people just go up missing or end up dead for nothing. You know, they're killed for a reason, and it needs to stop. It needs to end. We need to do our work for them. You know, they did work that we are just now getting, you know, we're just now realizing the importance of what they did. Now we have to give in their name, in their, you know, I mean, their acts matter. I mean, their acts of courage, bravery, you know, all that matters, and we need to uphold that, and we need to, you know, share it, and we need to make their loss for something. You know, yes, they lost their lives, but it wasn't for nothing. It was not for nothing. And if any of those men were still alive, I mean, I would be writing them daily, thanking them, you know, but they're not. So here we are. The ball's in our hands now. And, you know, it's just nice to be one of the people that are bringing this information out. You know, the one in God. I mean, I know. I mean, I only know two people, myself and Ryushin. I mean, and these other people that do interviews, but like, as far as people that are just straight up talking and just making videos like this, I mean, I've never seen anyone else. Besides Ryushin and myself, I mean, there probably are others, but no one that I've known about or seen videos of. I mean, and I've been doing this research for a long time. I mean, almost 10 years, not quite, but like 5, 6 years, 7 years. You know, and these things, they're not easy to talk about, but they're really real things. I mean, they're things that need to be taken seriously. And, you know, Phil Schneider said, you know, by the year 2029, you know, I don't know. But I do know that I refuse to let it just happen. I refuse to not put up a struggle. I refuse to not put up a fight, because the people that do put up the fight and the people that do speak out will be remembered and will be the ones who are looked at later. And just having the courage to say these things and to expose these things, it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, but if it wasn't easy, it wouldn't be worth it. So, but yeah, I mean, William Tompkins, I mean, he was 92 or 93 when he did his interview with Carrie Cassidy. He's still alive, I believe. Pretty sure. Yeah, he's still alive. I mean, he was a bright guy for 92. And the first time that, the first meeting that he had with Admiral Ricabada and him and a few other generals and a typist, that was in 1942. All these Navy meetings that he had regarding the subject were in the early 40s. I mean, we're talking 5 years before Roswell. So it goes back. I think it goes back all the way to the 1900s. Even back to Tesla. Way back then. 1890s. We're talking. But like, these meetings that were held. Even he goes to say. It's amazing to know. He says it's amazing that how many people do not know what took place in that meeting room in San Diego, at some naval intelligence base in San Diego. He was a part of putting packages together that were looked at by all these higher ups. All these people, or he was involved with collecting all the sensitive information that was coming from spies in Nazi Germany when they were working on UFOs underground during World War II, while it was still happening. We're talking 1941, 1942. The war is still raging, but where are the Nazis? Well, some of the Nazis, the high up Nazis, they're underground, working